Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Push Start. My name is Andile and I'll be taking you through the tips and tools to help you get started on your productivity journey. And it's a Monday, of course. And when it's a Monday, it's Matric Mondays where we focus on the class of Matric of whatever year it is. Because remember, here at Push Start, we share timeless advice that you could take over the years. So today we're talking about how to pick a career. Now, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to pick one. Right, how to go about pursuing one, and also as well how to enjoy the process in between. So let's get into the first one. I'll put the first one here as the most important because we know we have heard stories from people that are older than us, from people that have been more experienced in life, that they picked careers that they didn't enjoy. So the first one, I really want you to get clear on what you want, what speaks to you, and what you are passionate about. So there is a process that we can go about it. And in the last video on the 8 things that you should do in Matric, I touched on that, but I couldn't go in depth. So this is the video where we go in depth on that. And thank you so much for the feedback. So let's get into it. So you really want to have a piece of paper and a pen while doing this because you need to get clear and you need to connect with the message. I know I'm a person that loves digital products, but a piece of pen and a paper will do just fine for this process. Now I want you to write 5 things that you're interested in doing. Now these are things that you might have noticed in your career right now, in your early career, that you love doing, subjects that you like reading about. But now here I really want you to be honest with yourself. List the things that really speak to you and forget what your parents have said. Forget what society has said, what your teachers have said. I remember when I was in high school, a lot of teachers wanted me to do accounting, right? Because I was fairly okay in math, but it didn't connect with me. I didn't connect with accounting. But some of my friends really connected with accounting instead of physics, and that's perfectly okay. So you really need to sit down and really think about your skills, what you like, what truly speaks to you. So list 5 things that you're interested in. So let's make an example. So for me, I'm interested in engineering. I've always liked cars. Now I'm interested in machines. I love machines. I could never be a doctor because I could never deal with people like all the time. It takes a temperament. So that's that. I'm interested in doing that. I'm interested in computers. I love computers. I love systems. I'm also interested in teaching people, but also I have a creative side where I like creating graphic stuff, making beautiful stuff. That's why I was into graphic design. So you see with this example here, you are not cut into a box where people need to fit you in. You are all your own unique person and you should do exactly what you like. So with this one here, I really want you to think outside of the box. I really want you to go crazy with the 5 things that you have picked. So right here now, I want you to start connecting the dots in between the 5 things that you like and then narrow it down to 3 or a combination of the 3. So you are young, you have your years ahead of you. You should never be boxed into one specific thing, but also keeping that in mind, you also need focus so that you get the maximum results when you actually put in the work and chase after the career that you want. So with the 5 things that you have, start connecting the dots. So an example might be someone that is interested in biology, but they might also be interested in having a nursery and planting stuff and also teaching people about planting and stuff like that. But now you need to realize that what you might do in order to get to a career where you are a biologist is not the same as the things that interest you outside of the classroom, outside of the lecture room, if you're going to go to varsity about it, right? So start making and connecting the dots. So if you're someone that is interested in engineering, but at the same time you also like teaching people, maybe you could never be a teacher and you wouldn't like doing that. But of course, there are lots of things now in the day of the internet, and you can start a YouTube channel like this, teaching people how to get certain things done, whether it's study tips, whether it's I don't know, anything that you can get your hands on, right? So you really need to start making and connecting the dots and then focus on 3 things. So a practical example, let me give you this. I do love machines, I do love computers, I do love creating, I do love teaching people, but I could never be a teacher. I could never be a straightforward programmer, but I like doing engineering, but I can't do that only. So I have to have a creative outlet. So I just focus on 3 things. My main engineering career that I'm working on right now, and also the podcast and the YouTube series, where I can combine my love for systems and computers and also as well teaching people. So you could see how that can pan out, and now you know you don't have to be boxed into one thing. So let's get into the next one. All right, awesome stuff. Now that you're clear on what exactly you want to do, now we can take it a step further and get you clear on how you're going to get there. Now that's the third tip. Now with this tip, it's broken down into 3 little smaller tips, Yana, to get you started on that. Now we need to think about the how. How are we going to get there? What training do we need? So now you need to start, okay, for being a biologist, maybe I need a bachelor's degree. You write that down. I need a bachelor's degree. What does that bachelor's degree require of me right now when I'm in matric? Maybe it requires a level 5, a level 6, a level 7 in mathematics, whatever it is. Go to whichever varsity that you want to go to and read the prospectus carefully. You know, do that on your social media time. Read the prospectus carefully so that you know, okay, if they need a level 5 in mathematics and I'm sitting at a 4, all right, maybe I need to, learn about ABC and make sure that I bump up my grades such that I have a good chance of getting into that program. But it's not only limited to varsity people as well. Now here, that's where I make a disclaimer of careers are very big. They're very wide, right? You might have engineering as a whole, but in engineering, there are a lot of things that are in between that you can do. Now, I have a lot of friends that love engineering, but they were honest with themselves that they do not like the classroom. And there's a lot of people that do not like the classroom, sitting down for theory. It just doesn't appeal to them. But put them in a workshop, put them in a setting where they need to work with their hands. Absolute genius. They know exactly what to do, and they do it far much better maybe than the people that are doing theory. Remember, we are all gifted in different ways, right? And people that are also doing these types of careers report feeling much more fulfilled doing that, and that's their area of expertise. So now maybe you love engineering, but in the first step you discover that you don't like theory. Maybe a step that you need to go is going to a native course where you have a lot of practical components, where you're touching stuff, where you're actually making stuff that you're proud of. If that appeals to you, go for it. Write down, I need to have a trade test. Or if you're going the entrepreneurship journey, maybe you're saying, I need to get business skills. I need to learn how to sell. Maybe I need to get a short course on selling. Maybe I need to follow an entrepreneur, but that's another step on its own. So with the second sub-step of this one, you need to know how to fund these things, because these things are not cheap. They're not cheap at all. Getting an apprenticeship is not cheap at all. So you really need to know how to fund those things. Now, you need to write down. Remember, we are writing on a piece of paper. 1, we got clear on our interests. 2, we got clear on where to get there, and we mixed and match all of those things, right? So now you're writing down all the funding platforms that are there to fund your dream. Now, an example might be someone that wants to be a pilot, right? Those are the careers that maybe are not funded by the national funding scheme for students, but they might be funded via bursaries. So you need to get your research done early so that you can get a head start with these types of things. And then the last sub-step with this one, that could make a good genre of music, sub-step. So the last one that we need for this one is that we need to know the who. Who do we need to talk to in order to learn more about the career? Now, what I did is that I started doing informational interviews when I was in, I think, my second year of varsity, and I was transitioning and I was being confused and stuff like that. So I interviewed people in a lot of different fields. So I DM'd them, looked for them on social media, and then asked them, what do you like about your career? What do you don't like, and stuff like that? How do I get to the position where you're in? Or maybe a step lower, right? So those are the things that you need to get clear on. Now, when you know people that are in the career, there's a good book by Colemen, The Proximity Principle. It explains all of that. So now when you know people that are in the career, it kind of makes things much easier, rather than diving head first into the water and you know absolutely nothing about the career. Now, the fourth one here is not very popular in the productivity space, right? You might hear people say, go and do what you love. You know those speeches on the internet where it's one successful people, go do what you love, go do it. But how do you love what you do? Because clearly there are boring parts of what you do and there are nice parts of what you do. And most of the time it's really a balance in between, where you might love engineering, but there's some parts of it that are boring. There's some parts that really speak to you. So how do you fall in love with what you are doing on a consistent basis? And that is number 4, get immersed. Get absorbed into the career that you want to do, or whatever activity that you want to do. Live it. There's a guy that I grew up with, was in high school with, Linda Diale. Check out his Facebook. He's into training dogs for security purposes, right? And being a ranger and stuff like that. If you could see this guy doing this, he's totally in love with it. He's in love with the outdoors. If you see any of his pictures, he's always outdoors, right? And I know a lot of friends that also did some nature conservation, some nature, how do you pronounce this one?
A few moments later.
Conservation, some nature conservation, right? So they do those types of careers where they're out in the field, and you can see these guys are totally immersed in their career. I know a lot of friends that are into cooking, and if you could see their WhatsApp statuses, it's always food, it's always fashion if they're into fashion. Get immersed, get absorbed in your free time, right? On your social media. Instead of following some celebrity that lives a life that is way ahead of you and doesn't connect with who you want to be, instead read up some blogs, follow some people that are doing what you want to do. On Instagram, follow some doctors, right? There are doctors that are super cool, like Dr. Mike Ali Abdal, a good friend of mine, Sizwe Apan, who also started his TikTok. Do follow those people and see what's a day in the life of a doctor, engineer, entrepreneur, whoever that is, right? And be fully immersed. Now, a huge advantage of this one is that you'll have an advantage with your peers. Why? Because you are fully in there. So whenever there's a presentation, wherever there's a task that needs to be done, you are there, you connect with it, because there's an idea that popped up that you read about a few months ago, and you're seeing this project that I'm doing, this idea could apply. Or remember this one guy talked about this in the career on YouTube, and this is what I'm seeing here, so that could apply. So it builds a lot of mental flexibility, and you become a master in your field because you're fully absorbed with it. And this is a mistake that I made myself, and this is a mistake I see a lot of my peers making, and I do empathize, because one reason why you could not be immersed with your career is because you picked it because of someone else, because you picked it because they said you're very good in engineering, you're very good in mathematics, therefore you should do engineering. But maybe you didn't like engineering in the first place. Maybe you just wanted to be a fashion designer, and that's perfectly fine, right? So on your free time, instead of maybe looking at engineering stuff, you're looking at fashion design stuff. And when it comes to performing, then you're totally disconnected and you're not making right strides. And remember, confidence is built from action. So if you are not, someone just hooted. So if you are not confident in your career, maybe it could be that you're not fully immersed. This is a mistake that I've made tons and tons of time because of various reasons, and of course finance. I was doing some freelance stuff because I wanted to fund my studies at the time, right? But if I got clear on how to fund my dreams at the first beginning, I could have been fully immersed in my career. So that's another one. So let's go into the last one. But now here with this last tip, this one really makes everything work, right? Makes everything work like a well-oiled machine. You make your career choices very wisely. Now this last one here is to adopt a growth mindset. Now what is a growth mindset? You might have heard this term a lot in different types of videos, podcasts and stuff like that. A growth mindset, I can sum it up in one sentence. I do not know it, but with the time and the effort, I will know it someday. Now this is something that you really need to be careful, and that's why I say it makes everything work like a well-oiled machine, because you might be interested in engineering and you might like the theory and the science, but you were never given the chance to practice mathematics. You never had good teachers, you never had good physics teachers and stuff like that. But this is your career, you're responsible for it. So you're saying, I do not know mathematics now, but with the right resources that I can get for myself, there's Google, there's internet, there's YouTube, and effort that I put in, the hours that I put in studying, I can get better. And one day I might actually be an engineer, or be a doctor, or be an entrepreneur, a singer, or a writer, or anything, right? So that's what you need, a growth mindset that makes everything easy. Because with a growth mindset, you might reach out. You remember one of our previous steps, you might reach out to someone and they're a bit offish, right? And they don't want to really see you and they're acting some type of way. But if you have a growth mindset, you're like, you know what? I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know why this person is acting the way they're acting, but there are other avenues that I could check out. There are other people that I can speak about. What they did to me right now, it's more about them and not about me. So I continue, I move on with my dream. And the last one, the bonus tip here, always, at Push Start, we promote this. Have fun, guys. Have actual fun. Enjoy what you're doing. Always remember to have fun. And maybe it does get boring sometimes, even if you love something. When it does get boring, look at ways in order to inject some fun in your life. Maybe you need to take a break from what you're doing for a day or two. Go see family, do this and that. Always have fun, and it'll make everything else nice. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time and also tuning in. Now, if you think this is a video that you would share with someone, and maybe you're not in matric, or maybe you are in your early career and you're thinking of making a transition, this thing could apply to you as well. So we'll be going on the next video. We'll be talking about study tips to help you prepare for your exams, because we know exams are closer by the time of this recording. So we'll be getting into that shortly. Thank you guys for your time, and have a productive one. Cheers.